30-year-old boss laughed at me and said, "Your time is over, old man," as he threw my belongings in the trash. He had no idea who actually owned the land his office stood on. I spent 32 years of my life inside the four walls of Standard Office Suite 402. I knew every squeak of the floorboards, every flicker of the hallway fluorescent lights, and every smell that wafted from the break room. To me, that logistics firm was more than just a place to earn a paycheck. It was the house I helped build from the ground up, back when we only had 3 trucks and a stack of paper ledgers. The founder, Arthur Vance, was a man who believed in loyalty and quiet, hard work. When I started as an entry-level clerk in my late 20s, Arthur treated every employee like family. We worked 60-hour weeks, but we knew our sweat was building something lasting in the heart of the city. Over 3 decades, I moved up to Senior Logistics Coordinator, taking care of the operational details that kept the company solvent through 3 major economic recessions. Everything changed 6 months ago when Arthur passed away peacefully in his sleep. His estate was liquidated, and the company was bought out by a private investment firm that immediately sent in a new regional manager. His name was Julian Vance. No relation to Arthur, just a lucky 29-year-old with a shiny business degree, an expensive tailored suit, and a total disdain for anyone who didn't speak in modern corporate buzzwords. Julian looked at our seasoned team not as the backbone of the business, but as unnecessary overhead. He started cutting corners, replacing experienced warehouse managers with cheap software, and treating human beings like line items on a spreadsheet. But for reasons I couldn't quite fathom, he reserved a special kind of condescension for me. To Julian, my age was an eyesore, a daily reminder of a time before digital metrics and instant gratification. It all came to a head on a cold Tuesday afternoon in November. I had spent 3 days meticulously correcting a massive routing error that Julian's new automated software had created, saving the firm nearly $40,000 in potential shipping penalties. I walked into his glass-walled office, holding the physical folder with the corrected manifests, expecting at least a brief acknowledgement of the fix. Instead, Julian didn't even look up from his curved dual monitors. He let me stand there for a full 2 minutes while he typed away on his mechanical keyboard. When he finally leaned back in his leather chair, he looked at the paper folder in my hand with an expression of pure disgust. He told me that paper was dead, that my methods were archaic, and that my presence in the building was dragging down the team's modern dynamic. Before I could even explain the shipping override, he pulled an envelope from his desk and slid it across the glass surface. It was a termination notice, effective immediately. When I asked why, he didn't cite performance or metrics. He simply smirked, stood up, grabbed the cardboard box containing my personal belongings from the corner, which he had already packed without my knowledge, and shoved it into my chest. He walked me out into the center of the open plan office, ensuring that every young junior analyst and intern was watching. That was when he tossed my desk clock, my 30-year service award, and a framed photo of my late wife right into the industrial trash bin near the elevator. He leaned in close, looked me dead in the eye, and uttered those words with a patronizing chuckle. "Your time is over, old man." I didn't yell, I didn't make a scene or throw a punch. I picked up my wife's framed photo from the trash, wiped the dust off the glass with my sleeve, took my coat, and walked down the stairwell in absolute silence. The young staff looked away in shame, but Julian stood by the glass doors with his arms crossed, feeling every bit like the conqueror of an empire he had done nothing to build. What Julian and the high-powered investment firm didn't bother to research during their quick buyout was a small piece of local real estate history. Back in the early 90s, when Arthur Vance was facing complete bankruptcy trying to purchase the prime commercial land downtown, he didn't go to a commercial bank. He came to me. My wife had just inherited a substantial agricultural parcel on the outskirts of the city from her grandfather, which we sold to buy the deed to the downtown plot. Arthur and I made a quiet, legally binding agreement drafted by a top trust attorney. I purchased the land under a private family trust, and Arthur's company was granted a 30-year commercial land lease at a fraction of market value, with a strict clause that allowed the landowner to terminate the lease immediately upon any change of ownership or unethical breach of conduct. For 30 years, I kept that legal arrangement completely private. I never used it as leverage, never demanded a corner office, and never asked for special treatment. I was content drawing my standard salary and watching the company thrive, knowing that the soil underneath our boots belonged to my family's trust. The morning after my termination, I didn't sleep in or wallow in self-pity. I put on my best suit, grabbed my leather briefcase from the closet, and walked into the downtown offices of Sterling & Associates, the law firm that had managed my family trust for over 3 decades. My attorney, a sharp man named Richard who knew Arthur Vance personally, was waiting for me with a warm cup of coffee. I handed Richard my termination paper and explained exactly how my exit had been handled. Richard shook his head in disbelief, opened a heavy black binder on his desk, and pulled out the original ground lease deed from 1994. Clause 14B was crystal clear. The lease was non-transferable to outside corporate buyers without explicit written consent from the trust trustee, and any material disrespect or wrongful termination of trust founders gave the trustee the absolute right to cancel the lease with a 48-hour notice. Richard looked up at me with a calm smile and asked what I wanted to do. I told him it was time to close the chapter. By 11 in the morning, a formal notice of lease cancellation and immediate eviction was drafted, signed, notarized, and dispatched via process server directly to the corporate headquarters of the investment firm in Chicago, as well as hand-delivered to Julian's desk. The next day, my pension verification arrived in the mail alongside an official confirmation letter regarding the federal wire transfer for 30 years of accumulated land equity reserves. My financial future was completely secure. But over at Suite 402, the atmosphere was anything but peaceful. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, while Julian was in the middle of a regional conference call bragging about his cost-cutting measures, 2 sheriff's deputies and a commercial process server walked straight past the reception desk. They handed Julian the emergency court order informing him that the building's land lease had been legally terminated due to a fundamental breach of contract by the new management entity. The order gave the company precisely 48 hours to vacate the premises entirely. Because the land was private trust property, any equipment, servers, or office furniture remaining on the site after the deadline would be legally seized as abandoned property. Julian frantically called the Chicago corporate board, screaming into his phone that there had to be some kind of mistake. But when the firm's senior legal counsel pulled the original acquisition deeds and cross-referenced the land trust records, their tone changed from arrogance to sheer panic. They realized that their multi-million-dollar acquisition was built on a foundation they didn't own, and the man they had humiliated 2 days prior held every single card. By 4 in the afternoon, my cell phone started ringing continuously. It was Julian. When I didn't answer, he sent frantic text messages pleading for a meeting, apologizing profusely, and offering to double my salary, reinstate my position, and give me a senior director title if I would just sign a lease extension. I didn't reply to a single message. Instead, I drove down to the coffee shop across the street from the building the following morning at 9 a.m. I sat by the window with a newspaper and a fresh cup of black coffee, watching the absolute chaos unfold on the pavement outside. Commercial moving trucks were lined up down the block, blocking traffic as panicked employees and third-party contractors rushed to pack up servers, filing cabinets, and computers before the sheriff's deadline expired. Julian was standing on the sidewalk in the rain, his expensive suit soaked, screaming at movers while trying to manage a flood of calls from furious corporate executives. He caught sight of me sitting inside the dry, warm coffee shop. For a long moment, our eyes met through the glass window. The smug arrogance that he had carried just 3 days ago was completely gone, replaced by the sheer horror of a man who realized he had destroyed his own career by mistaking quiet dignity for weakness. I raised my coffee cup in a calm, silent salute, took a slow sip, and turned back to reading my paper. He had thrown my 30 years of service into the trash, but in doing so, he had swept himself right out the door.